Hello and welcome back to SML Total Access. This is season slash cycle kickoff edition. I'm Primetime Triple Zero, and with me is my friend Matt. What's going on, dude?
Hey man, it's finally here. Felt like we'd almost never get here after that roster issue, but today we kick off.
Yeah, man, I'm fired up, and let's go right into it with topic one. Team selection draft has passed us. Trades are going crazy right now. People kind of know who their division is. They've practiced with their team. Who do you think is regretting um, their team selection the most?
Yeah, I think everybody who couldn't attend the draft is probably regretting it just because some really good teams fell that they probably didn't anticipate when they sent their list in. The Browns for one. But just to point out an individual who I think fits that mold, who picked high is probably Coop. I'm not sure if Coop seeing Dan there and seeing the Browns fall and um, all those other good teams. I feel like he probably wouldn't have gone to Seattle. I tried that team a lot since it is my team, and they're pretty rough based on how this game plays. They don't have any pass rush. They really don't have much defense at all. So I think if the Browns were there and he was actually at the draft and not that concert, he might have switched his pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because everybody thinks that picking first automatically means that you got the advantage when sometimes picking right in the middle around 16 to 20 a good team's going to fall, and it does every year, and you can pick your division. Picking in the top five, you really, I mean, you get your team pick, which is great, but if you don't pick a top tier team, then you can put yourself, you kind of compromise yourself a little bit, and I can see that with Coop. um, I'm looking at Faz, and here's why. He took the Jaguars. They're his favorite team. He had such a dominant cycle with the Panthers last year after he got the abilities with Jordan Love. Um, and he knows that he's going to be in my division, RD's division, and NYT's division. Three guys who can run the ball. Three teams who, outside the Texans, who have good running backs. And I seen him in chat yesterday. He's already kind of getting nervous a little bit. I make a trade for Baker Mayfield, and he had the biggest reaction out of everybody that the Baker Mayfield trade happened. Everybody else, I mean, Monty got flamed. I'm not sure if he deserved to get flamed. I think it was a fair trade. But Faz really had a big reaction. And I think the pressure and the idea of being in this division is starting to get to his head a little bit. And I think come week two, I think that's when we first play. If/when I beat Faz that game, I think it's all really going to set in that oh crap, I screwed up. So we'll see. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and Faz has hopefully got some blood pressure meds on his desk because that division. Not only do you all like to run the ball and you're all good at running the ball, but NYT and RD when they play Faz, they will run it just to run it against him. Like
Yes.
they know that he hates it, and they are not afraid of chaos or disturbing the peace, and they will just run, 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 and drive him nuts. So Faz is in for quite the cycle.
Yeah, I'm. It's going to be fun. And two freight trains he has to deal with: Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry. Um,
Oh boy, I don't envy him at all.
so that'll be good. Moving on to second down. What's been your favorite trade so far this cycle? Whether it's one you made or somebody else has made.
Yeah, I think there's a couple that stick out. I think first off, and didn't think I'd really give this guy props because when I first saw the trade, I didn't like it for him. But the more I look at it, I think Tiny made a good trade with Dan. He dealt Saquon, but he got Elijah Mitchell back or Eli Mitchell. And they're 1 year. He's 1 year younger, little slower, but like he's still star dev, and I'm sure Dan did his research with the archetype. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure Barkley can probably get freight train or something. So I didn't look that far into it. But he got Greenlaw, who's a really nice coverage linebacker, and that's something that the Giants are missing. They have the two outside guys in Thibodeau and I can't remember the Aware. It's got a weird name, but they're both really good pass rushers. They needed a coverage guy. I think he picked up a first too. So I mean, that's a really good trade for him. I also kind of like what Colt did in getting Jimmy Garoppolo for a guard. I think an average left guard. I think he's in the 70s. Yeah, he's young and he's star, but I think Dan just wanted him because he's a Steeler, and didn't need Jimmy Garoppolo. And that Steelers team is actually really, really good. They just need a quarterback. And I know Jimmy isn't the long term option, but in the short term, he's better than Pickett. He's better than Trubisky. And that team's ready to win. And that division is up in the air. I mean, Bean's the best player in it. And I think Colt could make a run. I love that trade.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like what Colt's doing this offseason because he hasn't traded off his first round pick, and he's improved the team. He's got a quarterback who's decent, not the long term option, and now he just got a trade approved for J.J. Watt for 2 second round picks, one current, one future. So to me, he's improving the team. He's ready to try to compete, and he hasn't compromised the future. I like when teams do that. It's tough to do to play that game of both the past and the future. So I like what Colt 45 is doing there. And another thing I was looking at, another good trade I was looking at. Obviously, I think QP's been doing well with his trades. I know there was a little bit of drama earlier today, but he just traded for Josh Jacobs, running back to pair up with Kyler Murray and those receivers. That's going to be tough on Dan. I mean, that's a chess match right there. When we think about two owners making moves to try to one up each other, watching Dan and QP go at it, not only as players but as general managers for a whole cycle. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, I actually didn't see the J.J. Watt trade that Colt made. It must have just happened. But now he's going to live my dream of pre-blip having all three Watt brothers. So
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty jealous about that, and that's now my favorite trade.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. Moving on to third down, which team or teams are going to surprise you? I guess good or bad for season one.
Yeah, I think the guy that sticks out for me the most is going to be Finns. I think that division outside of Bomber is something. I mean, I feel like they're all on the same level. I think Fig is the clear underdog. I think DW and Finns are around the same, honestly. And then Bomber's going to run away with it. But I think Finn's practiced with the Dolphins as like the only team that he played with, I'm pretty sure. And so he knows exactly what they're capable of, and they're capable of a lot. I scrimmed them a couple times. Tyreek and Waddle, they can get behind the defense. I don't care what people say about speed not mattering. They can get behind the defense. And if they do, it's over. Or they can take a short slant 80 yards for a touchdown. So I like what Fens is probably going to do there. I think he's going to compete for a wild card in the AFC. And I think he's going to start season one. He doesn't have any issues with Tua. And I think on the NFC side, watch out for Grams. I'm going out on a limb here, but Usering is a little bit more back. It's not back to the glory days of Grams, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit smoother. He's got his team again. He's got to be absolutely psyched about that. I mean, it's hard to get a read on Grams, but he's got to be stoked that they actually fell to him. And I think that division is also wide open. I mean, he's got Woods there who loves to be 8-8 and 8-9, and I think obviously Doink is going to be good, but he's got no quarterback, and that's a struggle in this game. So I think Grams might surprise.
Yeah, one positive surprise for me, I think, is going to be Meats this year. I know and I watched Meats a little bit in the tournament, the pre-cycle tourney we had. That's a plug. We did $300 worth of prizes to the winner. Congrats to Bloom on that. But Meats, outside of Aaron Rodgers just being good with his abilities, Meats was throwing the ball towards the last half of last cycle pretty well, and he's really continued that trend. The idea of, and I know people, say I'm the narrative king, but I think sometimes people can't let certain things go. And the idea of Meats just kind of rolling around all the time was kind of slowed down last year because he didn't have a scrambling quarterback. He took the Dolphins, and we had the blip. Then he took the Chargers. He still moved, but he was more of a pocket passer. And this year, when he was the Packers, between not having a scrambling quarterback, the game, and just changing up his play style, Meats is a good player. And I watched him in the tournament, and he beat No Bean. And I know the Primer Posse was like saying, "Oh, it's Aaron Rodgers. He's got such a good season one Packers team." Well, yeah, that does help. But Meats is making really good reads. I mean, he beat me. He beat No Bean, who has like a bajillion hours in this game so far. He's playing really well. And I think Meats might make a push possibly for an NFC Championship game appearance in season one. I think he's that good right now.
Wow. Yeah, and the pressure's on him too because once Rodgers is gone, yeah, that defense is good, but he traded Jordan Love, so he's going to have to find a quarterback, and it's going to be wait when you don't have pass lead elite, and well, when you've used it, and then you go to
Oh,
someone who doesn't have it, man, it's like relearning how to ride a bike, dude. Trust me, that's why I have Herbert because all the other quarterbacks were ruined for me.
yeah, that's gonna be tough. One another positive. I guess I only have two positives. Looking at the AFC side of things, I think QB's back. I think this is going to be a good cycle for QB stud. I think he kind of regrets taking the Broncos in a way because that Russell Wilson contract and some of those older guys. But I noticed when QB returned last year, he was a little stiff in chat, and he was sucked at the game, and he was just a little stiff. Well, his confidence is back. He's a little more loose in chat. He's playing well. He won a few games in the tournament. I beat him, by the way. I beat him, but he just feels like maybe not he's all the way what he used to be, but he's no longer a walkover. He's no longer a doormat or a circle win. And I think that's good for the SML, and I think that's good for QB stud, and that makes that AFC West a little interesting. Obviously, you're in that conference or in that division, and you're probably his number one threat of stopping him from winning the division title.
Yeah, I scrim QB. I think this is a good game for him with the pass rush and his quick passing. And but he's he's back. I think he regrets that team, but it's not a terrible team for him with the good receivers, the decent defense. Yeah, Russ's contract's going to hurt, but I like that pick too.
So yeah, so good stuff going on right now as we move on to we're gonna move on to fourth down here on Total Access. Madden 23, as it's played so far, all things considered, gameplay wise especially, is Madden 23 the best Madden game we've ever had?
No, it's the
Wah,
best
wah,
Madden game
wah.
we've had since PS4. But the PS2 and the PS3 Maddens, back when they were regularly making NCAA as well, those games were better. I loved the Vision Cone Madden, which was '06. All those Maddens around that time frame I thought were really good. Um, Either that or I just didn't play competitive. Like I don't know if maybe I was just a different person and way younger and I didn't scrutinize the games as much, but I found them to be very enjoyable. I will say though, as much as I can crap on Madden, this Madden is really good. And I think we've talked about this in prior Maddens in chat. If I get that it's hard, it is hard to code 22 guys on the field all doing something at once. I love MLB the Show, but it's not. It's a better game in my opinion. But they don't have to code 11 guys all doing something at or 22 guys all doing something at once. Neither does NHL. Neither does NBA. I get that it's really hard. But when they up the pass rush, it hides the faults that they can't seem to fix. The stand still until a crosser comes open. The rollouts, escape artists being gone is a huge, huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that EA, while they haven't fixed everything, they have changed a couple of things, and it's made a huge difference because that pass rush has it's totally going to change the way we play the game, assuming they don't completely nerf it into oblivion. Because you can't just sit there and wait for. I watched the tournament. I love watching the tournament. A lot of guys were running Madden 22 plays and Madden 22 schemes, and they weren't working because they didn't have time to let those routes develop that you could do in Madden 22 with your eyes closed. So it's definitely the best since PS3.
Yeah, I think this might be the best game we've ever played. First of all, I think franchise. I can't say I think. Franchise was deeper back in the day. They had I remember playing and they had like the Tony Bruno radio show and all these little cool little things that probably weren't worth a crap, but you remember things like nostalgia just kind of makes things a lot better than what they are. Um, but overall, I think that back then we weren't. I mean, in 32 man leagues that really overanalyzed every piece of the game. If if we had that back then, or if we had as active members then than we do now, I think that it would show the flaws of those games a little bit more. I think that this game is in a really good place. I think it's playing well. And EA developers, I know people trash them and they at them on Twitter, and they're in a bad spot. And I've said this many times, but you get the white suits, the guys up top who demand certain thing. It's all about the money. It's all about MUT, and the developers are kind of hamstrung. Like they have to meet these deadlines, and they really don't have a lot of flexibility. So when these guys get blasted, they just have to kind of take it, and it's really not their fault. But when something does go wrong, I mean, think back. There was a patch last year that came out when CFM games just kept desyncing and like they wouldn't finish. And the devs got on that quickly, and within 24 hours, they fixed it. Think about just this roster update issue. I mean, the roster update comes out 5 p.m. and by 9 p.m. their engineer stays up on a Thursday night. That's past work hours, and they get it fixed. So some of the stuff that they have some flexibility to fix and where they're not screwed deadline wise, they actually do try. And I think this game's in a good spot. I am a little nervous about this update. I think it nerfed pass rush a little too much, but I think that as long as they could keep pass rush where it's at, or maybe even just a tad more, I think that this could be the best Madden game we've ever had.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point, and you make a good point about the white suits. I've worked for publicly traded companies and I've worked for not publicly traded companies. It is night and day. I mean, I think Madden would serve best by not releasing a game one year and just focusing on development an extra year. That'll never happen because the shareholders want their money, and MUT is where the money comes from, and that's why it's not the devs' fault. The devs' faults are the little things that don't get fixed. But like you said, the roster update, I was impressed. That guy was communicative on Twitter to everybody. He replied to you in like a matter of minutes.
Cleared it up.
And they had that fixed that night, and it was week 1 of football. So that guy the engineer probably didn't even get to watch the game. He was trying to fix that so much. So no, props to them for that. And I'm excited for the future of this game if they don't break it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And speaking of the game, I think about this franchise and this cycle, and there's a lot of players I would love to have on my team. A lot. Um, which player that's on somebody else's roster would you want to add to your team if you could just add them?
Yeah, this is a loaded question because one, I can think of a lot of guys, and then two, I'm the Chargers, so there aren't a whole lot of guys that I need. But I'm going to go with Kenny Clark.
Whoa.
When I was scrimming, I was pretty much once I used Pass Lead Elite, I was pretty much between the Packers and the Chargers, and the Bengals a little bit because he has Set Feed Elite. But man, that Kenny Clark, he was so disruptive. He's got inside stuff. He's a big body. He plays like his ratings. But I was mostly impressed with how much he rushed the passer. I think pressure up the middle with how much guys are going to stick to the pocket this year because they can't roll out because the blockers just disengage. I think pressure up the middle with a good defensive tackle is going to be pivotal. And Kenny Clark just absolutely shredded centers and guards for me. Jordan Davis on the Eagles, that he's like 350 pounds and 80 speed. I don't even know how this dude is. I got to watch this guy in real life. I don't know how that's legitimately possible. But he gets inside stuff when he turns superstar. He's just a rookie now. So once he plays his 500 snaps or whatever, guys like that, that's what the Chargers are missing, and that's what I would love to have.
For me, it's got to be Patrick Mahomes. The guy's going to last you all cycle. He's literally born on the same day as me, actually, or the same age. Obviously, our finances are a little bit different, but both 26 and born on September 17th. Fun fact. But he's got Bazooka, which is fun. I don't think that matters as much this year. But dashing Deadeye and rolling out and throwing on the run sucks for most guys. This guy, when he's perfect accuracy on all throws under 40 yards while running outside the pocket. Pass Lead Elite, that's Gunslinger. Increased throw power that's Gunslinger to me from last year. No look Deadeye, he can throw crossbody, and then he can enter the zone easily when trying to come back in games. The guy's got 97 arm, he's got mobility, he just loaded attribute wise, and he's young. You add that with Jonathan Taylor, and I am foaming at the mouth. But we'll take Baker Mayfield, I guess.
Yeah, that's an interesting tidbit about Patrick Mahomes and you. I didn't know that. You do have more championships, though. So.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. That
Yeah.
is true. Well, I appreciate that, Matt. And guys, that was the extra point on the total access. I guess we could have done the Matt 5, but we kind of just threw this together within minutes. We wanted to get a kickoff edition. Coming up tonight at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, the Colts and the Texans will kick off the cycle. We advance at 5:30 and we kick off at 5:30. Coop and Faz are on the call for that game. Prime versus RD cycle kickoff game, and we got a bunch of games going on this weekend. Really fun and exciting times in the SML.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I know we put this together real quick, but the Mat 5 will return on the next episode, and we'll have some actual SML action to evaluate. So I'm really excited for that.
Let's go, man. I'm ready to go. Let's go. I'm fired up. That was Matt. Dan's going to join us next week. That was SML Total Access. We're back. SML's back. Football's back, and we're ready to go, guys. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.